All right, everybody. Today we're going to make this part out of Lego and make it 3x the size. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that. It's a 1x1 with a slope. I have the actual Lego right here. So this is it from our kit. A couple things that are interesting about this. It does have a little ledge right here on the edge. That's a little tough to see. You can see that little edge. That's so when you push this down, you can kind of get your fingernail in there and pry that up. And then secondly, when it does an extrusion on the inside here, there's actually a little spot that's round that gets cut down so that the wall thickness of this top plate is not super thin. We're not going to do that on ours because I think because it's 3 times bigger, there's enough room there, but just note that's kind of there. But there we go. That's what we're going to make today. So let's get to it. We're going to start with the Lego master file that we have. Always start with this file and do a file save as, and then name it whatever your part name is going to be. So in this case, it's going to be a 1x1 with a slope. I'm just going to put 26 for the year, and then we're going to go with it. All right, so we have our master file. We did a save as. We have our sketch. That sketch we can turn off. We're going to use it to check at the end, but for now, we're good. So we're going to create a new sketch. We're going to go here. We're going to do a rectangle. And it's going to be Lego base by Lego base. We're going to extrude that by full height. Now, it's not really full height, but this gives us at least a block to kind of go by. And now we're going to look at the actual height of this. So I'm going to measure what that distance is. And that looks like 240 thousandths is what I'm getting there on my dial caliper. So we're going to come back. And when I create a sketch on the side and do a line, it's basically going to be a line that kind of looks like this, where the height from here to here is 0.24 times scale. Remember, we're doing a 3 times scale. So scale is a modifier or a parameter that we put in. And it does that. You can see it's pretty close to what I guessed. And then we've got to do this measurement. Let's see what that is. So we're just taking the caliper and we're measuring along that front edge. And that's roughly, about 80 thousandths on that front edge. So we're going to do 0.08 times scale. And there's our little wedge. And now we can extrude cut this material away from it. Cool. I'm going to do the face offsets at the end. So we'll do the underside now. New sketch on the underside. I'm going to draw a line. Again, X is your toggle for construction line. So construction lines are great because it allows you to make all these different things where you're not having, when you're trying to extrude, you don't have to worry about that. So basically making the construction of the stud and then a tangent square to that stud. And now I'm going to offset, and this is the one that's going to be the regular line. And I'm going to offset by curve divided by 2. And you might be asking, like, how do you know what that offset is? Well, after you make a bunch of parts, you kind of get the hang of what each of these are. But if you ever forget, just turn back on sketch 1 and double click on it back here. And you can see, here's my construction line for where it's tangent to the studs. So you can see that construction line there. And then you have an offset. And that offset is right here. And you can just double click and it will tell you that it's curve divided by 2. If you forget what the dimension is for this, you can always just click on it and it says, oh, it's stud diameter is the name of that. And then at the end, we can check some of these other values, especially the 1x side, like this here and this here. We're going to check these values and make sure they're consistent. on our part. But that's how we use that master sketch file. All right, we're now ready to extrude up into the surface, and notice because there's only one set of actual lines, it only selects that. If the circle were actual lines, let me show you. So if I go back in here, and if I didn't make this a construction line, okay, so all I do is just click on it and hit X, and it toggles it between construction and not. But now when I extrude, I have a circle or these square pieces. So now you got to click multiple things to get it to extrude. It's not that that's bad. It's just, it's more time, and you got to make sure you clicked everything, and it just is not as efficient. And again, the key is efficiency. So if I can just toggle that with a single button click to an X, and now extrude, and this is going to be negative hole depth, by the way. So hole depth is our option. And now I do want to show you like why the cutout underneath is a little different in the actual Lego. I'm going to change the material to glass so you can see through it. Okay. And this is the issue, is right here. So in the real one, this is very thin if you were to do this. So what they do is they extrude a little bit, and then they'll extrude just the circle the rest of the way. So it's not a square on the bottom, the whole entire extrusion cut, which would then keep this more meat on this section if it was just a circle the remainder of the way. I'm not going to get into that because that's a little higher level if you want to go more detail, but for our purposes, this is really good. And then I'm just going to take it back to the original material. So I'm going to just go back to the steel that it was and add some more detail now. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my offset, or my face offset at this point, and then I'm going to do the detail that's underneath this. So we want to do a modify. Let's do a offset face. We're going to do these, this, and this, and we're going to do a negative curve. Should shrink it up. There we go. And now I'm going to do the little detail that we showed at the very beginning of the video. And that little detail is that little ledge that's around the bottom, so you can separate it. And I've done some measurements already. So I took my caliper and used the step tool. So this on the backside here, and I measured how like offset that is to the inside, and then also how deep it is when you drop it this way. Okay, so how deep that goes. So it's 15 thousandths inset and 20 thousandths deep is kind of what I got. So when I do a new sketch on the bottom, I'm going to do an offset of this. I'm going to go negative 0.015 times scale. I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to do an extrude of this, and I'm going to do a negative 20 thousandths times scale. Not 200 thousandths, 20 thousandths. And say okay. That looks pretty good. Again, I might remeasure that. That looks a little big. I'm just going to check it. It's by the, by my eye, it looks a little much. So it looks like it's actually 18. So 15 that way, and then I think 18. Yeah, I'm going to go 18. So instead of going 20 thousandths deep, I'm going to go 18 thousandths. It's going to shorten that up just a smidge. That looks pretty good. A couple things to finish it. I'm going to do a chamfer. On any place a stud kind of inserts into something, it's going to always be curve times 2. It's going to be in my chamfers. And then this is going to be a sharp corner, and Legos aren't that super sharp, especially on these. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these edges. We're just going to round them just a bit, just so we don't have this like sharp edge sticking out. So we're going to do curve times 2 on this. And now you can see, there we go. And that's our part. When you print it, I would highly encourage that you print with the slope side down. So when you, go to make, you make this part, 1x1 slope. You pull that into Bamboo Studio. I'm just going to put it on a new plate here. So see, it's right here. I wonder what it will do when we auto rotate it. Yeah, I did. So it put it on that face, which is what it should do. It's going to print with that side down. Again, that smooth face is what we want to be down. And that looks good. Make sure your settings are good on that. This isn't going to talk you through how to do that part, but let's go back to this and say, okay, how do we check our part in terms of its size? Well, I'm going to go back to here. And now I'm going to use the inspection tool, which is hotkey I. And if I click on this back edge, it should be 0.397. How do I know that? Well, if I go back into my original sketch, hit escape, back to my original sketch, there's 0.937. And then my interiors should be 0.572. So let's look for that value. So I'm going to turn off the sketch. I'm going to hit I and click this wall and click this wall, and we should see 0.572. Perfect. Hit I again, click this wall, click this wall. Same thing, 0.572, money. Inspect one more time, this one here, 0.937, and inspect here, 0.937. That's a 1x1. That looks good. So that's all I'm doing. I'm checking to make sure my fits are good, making sure my actual dimensions of my outside of my part are good. I think I'm ready to roll. This one's ready to print. Yeah. And then we'll test and see if it works. We might have to make a little minor adjustment here or there, especially with maybe the kerf underneath, but that's really our starting point. If it's too loose of a fit, because sometimes these 1x1s are a little loose, all we're going to do is go back to where we had that extrusion on the underside and just change this number right here. Instead of doing kerf divided by 2, you could just do kerf, and that's going to make it press a little bit tighter. So it's going to shrink that up a little bit. And I would go there next and then see, okay, does that tighten that up? So when I push this onto a stud, that it sticks a little bit better than before. So some of the parts you might have to make adjustments, slight adjustments like that, but there shouldn't be any like really major adjustments that need to be made. Again, some filaments print a little different than others, but for the most part, and the orientation matters. Like if you print it like this versus if you're printing it straight up and down, that's going to have a little bit of effect on the size of that square, which then affects, how tight it is. So even if you printed it like on its side, you now have extra filament that you used for support material in there. So this isn't going to be perfectly smooth, this side here. So therefore, when that side's not perfectly smooth, it's going to have more friction. So sometimes those dimensions don't work depending on orientation. But those are quick fixes. Again, hopefully this helps. Thanks for watching today. Again, as always, like and subscribe. We'd love to get our subscriber count up. If these videos help you be a better engineer and a better 3D modeler, help us out. Have a great day.